Hello from on board the Queen Anne, and this is Cunard's newest ship. Many people have commented that she doesn't have quite as much Cunard memorabilia and Cunard related elements aboard as the other Cunard queens, Queen Victoria, Queen Elizabeth and Queen Mary too, but there are quite a few Cunard references on board this ship from its history that I thought you might enjoy. So I thought I'd show you a few of the Easter eggs in the different areas on board the ship that are based on Cunard's history that you might not have known about. And the first one I'd like to start with is the Corinthia Lounge. Now, the Corinthia Lounge, just like the Corinthia Lounge on Queen Mary 2 and the Cafe Corinthia on Queen Elizabeth, is named after the Cunard ship Corinthia, which was quite well known in the 1920s because it was to operate a world cruise for the brand. Now, Corinthia was not the first ship to ever do a world cruise, and it was actually sold in conjunction with American Express. So it was a Cunard American Express joint venture that took place for that first ever world cruise. And because of this, the Corinthia Lounge on board Queen Anne, as well as the other Cunard ships that have references to Corinthia, is named after that very iconic Cunard ship. Now, as we make our way through the photo gallery on deck 3, heading towards the aft of the vessel, we'll find another space that has a very deep connection with Cunard's history. And this one you probably have already guessed, because it is of course the Britannia Restaurant, named after Cunard's first purpose-built ship, the RMS Britannia. Now, I make a reference to the fact that it's Cunard's first purpose-built ship, RMS Britannia, because they did in fact have another ship that predates Britannia in its entry into service. That ship was called the Unicorn and was actually purchased by the Cunard line ahead of Britannia's maiden voyage, and she made her first crossing of the North Atlantic in May and June of 1840. Now, Unicorn was a smaller ship than Britannia. She'd already been in service. It was a second-hand acquisition. The idea was that they would run a feeder service up the east coast of America and Canada with these smaller ships, and Britannia was going to make her maiden voyage in 1840, so they needed the ship across the Atlantic before that to operate these feeder services. And so Unicorn was sailed across the Atlantic before Britannia and set the scene for Britannia's maiden arrival in July of 1840, which had Sir Samuel Cunard, one of the founders, on board the ship. He was invited, it's reported, to over 1,870 dinner parties, thanks in part because of the interest that had been generated by Unicorn's maiden arrival. So who knows, maybe on the next Cunard Queen, or the next Cunard ship, there might be a Unicorn restaurant in honour of that very special first Cunard ship, the first one in the books. Now, a casino might not be the first place you would think of when you're thinking about a historic room, but on Queen Anne, the casino is called Room 1840, and this is in honour of the year 1840 when Cunard first started sailing across the North Atlantic, of course with the Unicorn followed by the Britannia. Those two ships were joined by the Acadia, Caledonia and Columbia to form the first 4 ships of the Cunard fleet, and this space here, which is a bar, lounge and casino, is named in honour of 1840. 185 years ago this year, when those first services were taking place. You just walk down the staircase here and you'll find yourself in another iconic Cunard space. And this will of course be something that you're very familiar with if you've travelled on the other Cunard ships. It's not unique to Queen Anne. In fact, it first was seen on board the QE2, but it has a very special logo and a very special name. Now, this is named in honour of Cunard's logo, the rampant gold lion that is standing there in front of you now. You can see it holding the globe. The original design of the lion included a map on the globe just here that showed the United Kingdom and the North Atlantic as well as North America facing towards the viewer, because of course that was the famous transatlantic service that Cunard was operating. So the Golden Lion pub is named of course after Cunard's iconic logo. Now, Queen Anne also has a very special space on board that isn't found on any of the other Cunard ships, and this is a new venue that maybe we'll see added to the others in refurbishments, who knows. This video is brought to you by me and my new book, The Evolution of the Passenger Ship. In The Evolution of the Passenger Ship, we've brought years of research together to create a book that takes you on a journey from the earliest sailing ships right the way through to the modern behemoths that we see today. The Evolution of the Passenger Ship is available at all good bookshops, and if you buy a copy, you help us by supporting the channel. Thanks so much, and now back to the video. So the Bright Light Society on Queen Anne is one of the entertainment venues. It's actually quite popular in the evenings for very special shows that have been specifically designed for this space. But what makes this space really interesting is the reason why it's called Bright Light Society. And that's because of all the bright lights they have here hanging down and illuminating the space. The room was actually created in honor of the Cunard liner Servia, which was the first Cunard ship to have electric lighting on board. And one of the features on those early steamers that had electric lighting was that they used to showcase all of the wonderful lighting features, sort of showing off this modern technology. Of course, we take lighting for granted these days, but on board the Servia it was a very novel experience. Now, when this room was first designed and the ship was being put into service, a lot of talk was made around the fact that this was designed in honor of the Servia. But can you find any plaques in this space to talk to you about that? No, you cannot. So you kind of have to know if you want to know. But it is another one of those little Easter eggs hidden on the ship, and hopefully at some point they'll put a plaque up here to let people know the significance of this remarkable space. So we're currently on deck 2, and the next stop on our little whirlwind tour is all the way up the top of the ship, waiting for the lift or elevator, one of the great cruise ship pastimes. This could be another great space to put a little bit more Cunard memorabilia or artwork on the lift walls or elevator walls as you're making your way up and down the ship. And as we know, Queen Mary 2 does have this on board. Now, one of the things that I think they could do with this ship to make it feel a little bit more like a Cunard ship is to put a few more maritime pieces of artwork in the staircases. There are some throughout the ship, and in fact there's quite a lot of artwork that can be found. There's even an artwork audio tour that you can take around the ship, but it's a bit more abstract than what you'd find on the other Cunard ships. You can see here this is a woolen tapestry of the arrival into, I think it must be New York, because there's the Statue of Liberty there. But on the other Cunarders, what you'll find is that there'll be maritime artwork throughout the vessel, and on this one it doesn't seem to have quite that same amount of artwork, but there's plenty of space for it. You could definitely add some to the bulkhead here. So let's head upstairs to deck 12 to find the next area that's significant on board the Cunard ships. And you might have already guessed which space I'm going to be taking you to. That is, of course, the Commodore Club, named after the Cunard Commodores. This is a beautiful space, first introduced on board Queen Mary 2 all the way back in 2004, but the Commodore Club on Queen Anne is by far the largest of the Cunard fleet, and a very, very nice place to come for a drink, enjoying the beautiful view over the port, starboard and forward of the ship, of the sea, as the ship makes its way from port to port. Now, this area is named in honour of the Cunard Commodores, who were the senior captains of the fleet, and in fact there's even cocktails named after the various Commodores that you can find in the menu here, including one named after Sir Arthur Rostron, Commodore of the Cunard fleet, the same man who commanded Carpathia to rescue the passengers who survived the Titanic disaster. So I hope you enjoyed this little walkthrough of Queen Anne, and to just have a look at some of the Easter eggs and history snapshots that you can find throughout the ship. There are plenty more, so if you know of any that I haven't shared here, let us know in the comments below and I'll try and include them in the next video. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, I hope to see you on board.